If you're someone who's been doing all the right things, you're journaling, you're working on yourself, you're meditating, you're taking action, you're visualizing your future, you're trying to hold the vision of your next level, but deep down, you still feel stuck in the same emotions, the same patterns, the same mental loops, the same self sabotage, it's not because you're doing it wrong, it's simply because you're skipping the most vital and most powerful and most underrated tool of all, which is your breath. And I'm not talking about take a deep breath when you're stressed type of sayings, right? I'm talking about a conscious, embodied, intentional breath that reconnects you with your body, clears your mind, regulates your nervous system, and shifts your entire energetic state. And what I mean by that is something many people just do not think of, or at least I have rarely seen anyone really talk about it and taking it actually serious. Because your breath isn't just oxygen, right? It's access. It's literally the portal back to alignment. It's the fastest way to move from your reactivity into your presence, from panic into clarity, from survival into power. Breath is literally the bridge between who you have been and a version of who lives your dream reality, right? The version that you desire to be. And most people don't actually know how to breathe. So here's the wild part. Most people think they are breathing all the time. And technically, yes, your body is keeping you alive. You need to breathe, right? But that's not the same as conscious breath. Most people breathe shallowly. So high in their chest, they tighten their jaw, they clench their stomach, they hold tension in their throat, and their breath never drops into the belly. So it never expands your diaphragm, it never releases your nervous system. Right? So what the body hears is we're under threat, we're in danger, we're threatened, we need to stay alert, we need to stay guarded, we need to be controlled. And that's the baseline most people are operating from, sadly, because a nervous system that is stuck in overdrive with no space to process, no access to intuition, and no ability to align with higher timelines is a body that keeps you stuck in life. And from a scientific perspective, while you're in a state of survival mode, the sympathetic nervous system is what is activated. And this is really the part of your automatic nervous system which is responsible for the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. So when it's turned on, your body goes into high alert, meaning your heart rate increases, your breath becomes shallow, like I just said, even your digestion slows, your cortisol and adrenaline they spike, all because your system is preparing you to deal with a perceived threat. So you keep thinking that danger is incoming. Now imagine maintaining a constant shallow breathing. Your body constantly feels like it's preparing for a threat, so you can never fully switch off and actually wind down, right? And when you're breathing like this, so shallow, rushed, and with this tightness, you're not just signaling stress, you're also blocking oxygen flow to the very system that needs it most. So your brain receives less oxygen, which then clouds your thinking and actually increases the anxiety that you have. So your digestive system slows down, your muscles tense unnecessarily, and your heart beats harder trying to compensate it. And it becomes a loop, right? The less you breathe, the more stressed your body feels, and the more stressed your body feels, the less you breathe. Okay, it's a vicious cycle that never stops. And over time, this literally becomes your baseline. Your body learns to function on minimal oxygen, which technically keeps you alive, but energetically, you're running on fumes. And there's no room for clarity or creativity or flow when your cells are begging for air. And maybe the scariest part that I haven't even mentioned, most of us actually stop breathing completely throughout the day without even realizing it. And I've been a victim of that myself, a culprit of that myself. You hold your breath while checking an email or reading an uncomfortable text, right? When your heart is sinking in your stomach, when you get that pit in your stomach, you freeze when someone says something that is actually triggering you or that is scary to you. You pause your breathing mid meal or while scrolling and don't even notice until your jaw starts to really clench up and your shoulders are up to your ears, right? Until you are so tense that you have to notice it. But it takes a long time to even get to that point. And this unconscious breath holding, it becomes your body's default way of dealing with discomfort. And when you stop breathing, you stop processing. Your emotions, they get stuck, your thoughts get louder, your body literally braces, but nothing moves. And the presence, being in the present moment, being in the now, it's completely gone, right? And believe me, I have been there. I've been working on rewiring myself not to do that anymore for years now. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, but in order to live in peace and fulfillment, this work has to be done. And I still catch myself sometimes, rarely at this stage, but still, it still happens every once in a while when I'm distracted, where I notice I've held my breath for a good minute now. But the moment that you catch that and choose to breathe deeply, I mind you, instead of freeze, my oh my, this is the moment that you disrupt that survival cycle. But back to what I was actually saying, then the parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, which is your rest and digest mode, it's what you activate through regulation, right? So breath work, nervous system safety, grounding, and presence. And this really is the state that supports your healing and your clear thinking, and where you are emotionally regulated, and that embodiment that you need. So when you breathe deeply and consciously, you are shifting your system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So you are allowing fully for oxygen to get into your brain, which leads to focused and clear thinking as well as feeling. Okay? So when you learn how to breathe properly through the nose, slow and deep, into the belly and your lower back, when you learn to soften your internal space with breath, when you start breathing as a way of relating to yourself instead of reacting to your external world, that's where everything begins to shift, right? And that's why what this video is about today. Because your breath is a tool, so use it with intention. Now, here's where it becomes real. I want you to think about the last time that you were about to do something uncomfortable. Maybe you were walking into a meeting, or maybe you had a show, maybe you had a performance, maybe you had to speak up for yourself in a conversation or with a friend, right? Maybe you were about to hit the last set of a heavy workout and your body wanted to quit, or maybe you were just sitting down to eat and you inhaled your food because you were rushing to your next task, right? Or because you were distracted by Netflix or something. We do this all the time. We hold our breath, we brace our body literally for a threat, we tighten our thoughts, and then wonder why we cannot feel grounded, why we feel overwhelmed, why we feel overstimulated, why we cannot feel confident, why our thoughts are just not clear at all. But what if, in that exact moment, you paused and you simply chose to breathe? You simply chose silence in that moment? What if you expanded your stomach instead of tightening your chest? What if you slowed everything down just enough to let your system recalibrate? Because when you do that, your whole internal experience shifts. Your heart rate slows, your mind softens again, your body grounds, and you start showing up from your highest identity, the one who leads with that clarity and not chaos, who leads with being together and not running away from a threat. And so breath is not about managing your anxiety, but rather it is about mastering your internal state. So you can shift your reality from the inside out, and it starts with your breath, literally. There is nothing in your outer world that doesn't first begin with your inner state. I say that in all of my teachings, all of my videos. Whether it's your business, your relationship, your performance, your money, your confidence, just overall yourself, everything flows from your energy. And energy is regulated through your nervous system. If your system is dysregulated or triggered or overwhelmed, of course you will sabotage every opportunity that you get. You will withdraw from every connection that you have. You will overthink your decisions, or you will cling to what feels safe even when it is not aligned, right? You will react impulsively again and again and again instead of simply responding intentionally. And it only makes sense, right? But when you begin to breathe consciously in those key moments, the ones that actually do feel hard and uncomfortable, activating, or that are scary or emotionally charged, you can take your power back. It's those moments where you simply breathe for a second, you pause for a second before you do something irrational during your sports game, or where you pause for 3 seconds and take 3 deep breaths before you choose to lash out at somebody, at the person in front of you telling you something, right? Or where you simply focus on chewing your food and breathing deeply during eating instead of binge eating and being distracted by some other series. You shift out of the automatic response, you regulate before you react, and now you have space. Right? What you're getting is space. Space to choose, space to align, space to let your desires come toward you instead of chasing after them from a place of contraction. Your breath creates the internal safety required for you to actually receive what you want. And this is what real identity shift looks like. Everyone talks about becoming that version of you, the one who is confident, who is composed, who is powerful, who is grounded and magnetic. The one who doesn't actually spiral, who simply moves with ease. The version of you that shows up fully for yourself. But you don't become her by forcing yourself into new habits or overworking your way there. You become her when you regulate your internal world deeply enough so that version of you can become your baseline. When breath becomes your anchor, this is when groundedness becomes your default mode, right? When stillness becomes your default mode, when your nervous system is trained to hold the energy of peace and not just simply survive through chaos, that's when your identity shift actually sticks. So you stop pretending to be someone else. You literally stop performing the version of you that you want to be, and you actually embody her. And you actually get to lead from that version. So your dream life, it doesn't require hustle, and it also doesn't require you to be absolutely perfect. What it does require is regulation, presence, and for you to stop spiraling and actually take a moment and start breathing. Because when you learn to regulate in the hard moments, when you learn how to regulate in the uncomfortable, when you pause before you actually panic, when you first ground yourself before you have that impulse reaction, when you inhale before you react, that is when you rewrite your response, right? That's when you respond instead of react. That's when you reset your whole identity and who you are. That's when you realign with the version of you who already lives in your next level because you are already acting and embodying different. And all of that, all of it simply starts with breathing, as silly as it sounds. So I need you to stop waiting for everything to fall into place and stop overworking yourself, burning yourself out with the inner work before you've even started, and overwhelm yourself for no reason. Doing more each time something doesn't work, it doesn't always work out in your benefit. Okay? It's not about working harder, it's also not about working smarter. It's simply about working from such a regulated and such a composed state that you can always bring yourself back into a state of balance, into a state of groundedness, no matter what is around you, no matter how stressed you are or how uncomfortable you are, how much pressure is on you. So I need you to start breathing like the version of you who already has it all. And you can watch your reality rearrange around that version. It's gonna happen.